Happy July. Hope you're all ready for the weekend. Just real quick before we get started to the presenters, just out of curiosity, who's here for the first time? Has never been here before? Awesome, welcome, thank you for coming. And so here out of the group is a business owner or an entrepreneur or considers themselves one of the above? There we go, okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming out again. We're going to go ahead and get started with two different presenters to kind of give you guys another run through of how this program works. We're going to do two presentations, about 6 to 8 minutes of the presentation, and then we're going to jump into Q&A, and that Q&A is open to everybody, so don't be shy, don't be bashful. If you have a quick comment or a quick question, look for Chad or myself. We'll be on the sides. Please stand up. We'll give you the mic. Put it to your chin. We're recording it for the speakers and for everybody else who's not here. And again, this is for the presenters, so if you have questions geared towards them or comments that they can benefit from, please let them know. Oh, yeah, got some new stuff on the board as well. Just some community stuff, the announcements, which we'll go over in the middle, and then some questions. If you guys have answers to possibly these questions, and we'll change these weekly, you can come up afterwards and put your answers on there or put your names, numbers, emails, information. And of course, we encourage you all to stick around afterwards. We can hang out in this room and in the foyer of the E-Factory as well for networking or, drink the rest of the coffee, whatever's clever. So our first presenter is Rob Woolsey here in the E-Factory with Sprocket. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 6 years ago, my 56-year-old mother lay dying in her home in the country. She woke up that morning, thought she had a cold. She's curled up on the sofa. My dad comes in to check on her from time to time. Last time he comes in, her breathing is extremely labored. He calls 911. Time goes on and on. Now he's performing CPR. They had a daycare in the house that they ran together, so he's also trying to keep the children safe while performing CPR. It took 45 minutes from the time they called 911 to the time first response arrived at the house. By the time they arrived, her throat had completely closed up. They were not able to intubate. She was eventually pronounced dead. Now, we've all experienced the issue. You put Google Maps or another navigator on your phone, you put an address into that, especially if it's a rural address, it won't find that address. But what's worse is that many times it doesn't tell you it doesn't find the address. You don't know it until you've driven and you're looking at an empty field. Which leads me to what we do today. We've built two GPS tracking portals. One is commercial. With both, we can track vehicles, personnel, assets anywhere in the world. Commercial side is SprocketFleet, but today I want to talk to you about RuralFirst. Specifically, we focus on the needs of first responders, 911 dispatch, commanding officers that have to deploy into rural areas. Now we come into an area, we work with the local 911 GIS team, we bring in their local coordinates, we import that into our system. So now we have accurate address points, accurate center lines. So many times in the country, there's not any address points in Google Maps, and the center lines won't even match the road names. So now we've made this accurate. You can see in the portal here, vehicle driving. It shows, which you probably can't see here, shows the address. This will change in real time as the vehicle drives. This green is a halo, which you'll see pop up here as soon as this vehicle starts driving again. So we take that information and we put tracking devices in the vehicles on anything that they're needing to be able to track, deploy, protect, and it gives all that information back to 911 dispatch and the people that are managing those people. Now, they'll be able to see in real time if the vehicle is in motion. Green means the vehicle is moving. It turns yellow if the vehicle is idling. It turns off if the engine is off. But we've gone farther than that. We have sensors in the devices that we put in the vehicles, and it turns red if sirens are on. We often don't think of utility trucks as first responders, but think back to the ice storms. Joplin, definitely first responders there. Maybe orange if the bucket's up or the ladder's up on a fire truck, or blue if the trunk is pumping water. Talk about that in a second. But now, 911 dispatch and the commanding officers that need to manage their people in the field can see in an instant everything that's going on with their fleet. They just have to glance at it. They can tell exactly who's pumping water, who's got a vehicle pulled over. They can even see if someone's idling on the highway, they're probably running radar. That information feeds into our system. If a call comes into 911, it instantly drops into our system. They can see exactly where that call is coming from. They can see where all the vehicles are located around it. They can do a proximity. They simply click on the proximity button, and it now orders the vehicles by how far away they are from the incident. And there's an events column that shows exactly what's going on. So not only can they see it by the colors that's going on, but it says. So if the first vehicle that's closest to the incident, maybe it's a mile away, it's got its lights on, you know you're not going to deploy that vehicle. The second vehicle that's idling, you deploy that vehicle. Speeds up time, plus they can send directions instantly, and the directions route from where that vehicle is located to where it is, where the incident is. Now, we take those sensors that we just talked about. Currently, we're working with a Head Start program. They have the problem where they're leaving children on the bus. I know it seems way out there, but apparently it happens from like 12-year-olds down all over the country all the time. They've tried several solutions to this, including one where the bus driver has to walk to the back of the bus. He swipes a card showing that he has checked the bus, along with a policy that says they're fired if they swipe the card and still leave the child on the bus. They fired 3 bus drivers. Obviously not the solution that they need. Our solution that we expect to have implemented this first of the year, we build in an active RFID system into our platform. A child steps on the bus, we can tell exactly where they got on the bus, what time they got on the bus, what time they got on and off the bus. We can tell at any moment if there's 20, 30, or 1 child on the bus. But we go further than that because the bus driver is who we're trying to keep from leaving children on the bus. He can't watch web portals, so we put a flashing LED. If there's children on the bus, that LED is flashing red. He gets to his last stop, opens the door, child gets off. If that LED is still flashing, he still has a child on the bus. But let's say he's had a bad day, wife's mad, he's trying to buy flowers. He doesn't see the flashing LED. He drives, he gets within a half a mile of the final destination of that bus, and that light is still flashing. Now, it instantly sends out alerts via text and email to anybody that needs to know, oh my God, we're about to leave another child on the bus. Now, while all of that is great, 911 dispatch, everyone can see exactly what's going on in managing their fleet from the field. We've made it mobile because obviously there's lots of times as business owners, as anyone, commanding officers, we have to be mobile. We have to be in the field. We've made it, this is a screenshot from the SprocketFleet portal of my phone. You can see there the vehicle's in motion near Cox Hospital. It can be viewed on any smartphone, any tablet. We partnered with Verizon because they have the best rural coverage. Another great thing for us partnering with Verizon is they're very excited about the product. They'll begin paying their 2,000 sales reps, nationwide B2B sales reps, to sell our product, which we're very excited about. As well as the more communities we get it into, the more first responders we can help get their job done. And this video that I've kind of alluded to, played in the background, was me. I went to the nearest fire/EMT station to my mom's house. Now, because I knew how to get there, that trip took me 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, there's no way to know if that would have made a difference. But if it was your family, wouldn't you want them to have that chance? I'm Rob Woolsey, SprocketFleet, RuralFirst GPS Tracking Solutions.
Folks will open it up for question and answer. Just raise your hand.
I was slightly more nervous with that than I thought I would be.
Rob, can
Yes.
the bad guys get this and see where police cars are dispatched?
No, everything is secured. There's special logins and hidden places that they have to go to even get to it. And then they have to log in, and there's several logins there. So we keep it secure. Nobody else, unless we decide to sell it, maybe. No, we wouldn't do that.
Rob, who's done your development? It seems like there's just constant programming and development here. Who's doing that? And can you tell us a little bit about your development team?
Well, so I've partnered with a company out of Canada and then some developers out of India. So one thing that's been somewhat nice, it's been difficult communicating with the people out of India because our hours, where they cross. But a lot of times they'll be up at 1 o'clock in the morning because I'm complaining that something's not working right. Last weekend, I think we spent 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday on Skype, going back and forth trying to get some things corrected. We've deployed our first customer, Bates County, up by Kansas City area. They have 0 addresses, and all the center lines are completely wrong outside of their little city of Butler. And so with them being the first customer to deploy, there's some glitches when it goes live, and so we spent a lot of time this weekend getting that fixed.
Yes, and your software will have a cost to the customer.
Yes.
Which will be governmental entities. And I would suggest then that, just for instance, the other day I went to a store and happened to see an old lady. She fell down and hit her head on the floor. And as I was leaving, and they came and got her and all, every vehicle that had a flashing light was in front of that store. Mm-hmm. The big pump truck, the ambulance, the fire truck, the fire chief, and then everybody that had a blue light, and all those calls cost money. They're extremely expensive. I would suggest reviewing the amount of savings that you can get by having proper response versus massive response.
It's a very good idea.
Speaking of savings, tell us about the commercial applications and how you market that.
So obviously Verizon, so they've already started bringing us in on several deals. We're also we work with Verizon locally. We're working with a company out of St. Louis, Monsanto, that you may have heard of. So we're in very early talks with them. Currently, they track all their shipments and stuff worldwide. Obviously, they've probably got a little security problem right now with the way people may be a little angry. So currently, they're tracking all over the world. However, they're having to track in different locations. So they get tracking devices in all the different regions. So they have to keep track of which web portal each shipment is on. They have all the web portals come in different languages. I mean, it can be in Arabic or Swahili. I don't actually know about Swahili, but it can be a lot of languages that they don't speak. And even if it has the ability to drop down to English, many times you can't read the map well enough to get to that point. So, but the reason that they've done that is because they have to have coverage, cellular coverage, to feed that information back. GPS sends the satellite information down where you're reading your location, but then it's sent back over cellular to get the information back into the maps. With this, we'll do it with satellite backhaul so that it'll work anywhere in the world.
How do you plan on moving outside? I like that you started kind of hyper-local, start with the neighboring counties. How do you plan on expanding?
Well, of course, the Verizon thing will be a big play for us. Honestly, as I started this, I expected to, have a moderate growth cycle to start, spread across Missouri and Kansas, and then, as we grow, then to develop into the rest of that. Verizon coming in with their sales reps nationwide will change that for us. And they've already, so right now they partnered with us regionally, but they've already been having talks and how that we can move nationally with this. And they have their own tracking product. It just doesn't do what ours does.
Rob, how does this compare to Google Maps? Is there any possibility to work with them?
We do.
Are they competition? How does that work?
We do. So we pay them a decent amount of money every year to use their mapping. And they spend billions of dollars a year on it, so there's no reason not to use Google Maps. Theirs is the best mapping. It's just not accurate in the rural areas. So we collect all the data. We bring it into our portal. Our goal is to have all of rural America completely mapped in our system and accurate. But it won't be in Google Maps. It will just be in our.
Does that mean that you submit things to Google? Are you improving upon theirs? And says clearly there's an opportunity for that. Can you not sell what you're doing back to Google?
There might be plans on that type of thing in the future. With our system, I think, in answering that question a little more, but with our system, not only will that information be in our system, but it'll be constantly updated. I mean, we don't just get their maps one time. They update it. We even build the ability for them to update it on the fly. They can update it daily, or they can send it to us monthly or quarterly, whatever they need, and we'll update it for them.
A couple things. This morning, I was in my house, and I was walking, and I was tripping over a cord which was connected to my laptop that was bought by work. So I did a header straight down, and I almost broke my hip. It's not relevant. But no, I had another question. I just thought it was funny. My kids were laughing. It sounds like you're doing business to business, and when you started talking about the bus thing and all that, and some of you may have heard that a 7-year-old girl in Nixa was almost abducted. Luckily, she bit the woman and was all right. But I was just thinking, are you having any plans for anything residential in the future, or are you strictly business to business at this point?
So my specialty, what I've done forever, is business to business. My wife has been pushing me to go that route. Honestly, I'm a little ignorant on how to market into that, that economy. It would take a lot of dollars to break into that. I mean, it could be done through social media and stuff like that. I've been playing with social media a little bit. I find myself a little ignorant on that as well. So as we grow, maybe I can hire some social media people to do that.
Rob, we've talked about this a little bit, but can you share some experiences you've had working and selling to local governments, municipalities, counties, et cetera, and how the value proposition needs to be portrayed to those entities to get it through some of the processing for procurement and implementation?
So sometimes that's a challenge. What you run into is, surprisingly, so I work for Alltel, Verizon, Sprint, and for those, like Alltel, I manage the state of Missouri contract. Southwest Missouri, Sprint, I manage federal government for like 19 states. The thing that is surprising that I've gotten into more with this is the local politics. So like the Sheriff's Department has brought this in. There's 20 units for the Sheriff's Department. There's units for the hospital. Some of the others are a little hesitant. They're kind of fighting over who pays for it, but nonetheless, everybody wants on it because they need to deploy and they can't find addresses. One person I was talking to was talking about being dispatched to 2 swans swimming in a puddle, and it's very common. So the way that they dispatch now in these areas, because they don't have mapping, they say hold for directions. The ambulance or whoever pulls over, they sit there and they start writing directions. And it's literally turn at the old tree, and that's how they get around. So we come in, we work with the commissioners. Sometimes we just come in and work with the 911 dispatch, and they bring us into the different entities.
Have you ever thought of maybe working with the military? They have a lot of dispatch vehicles, and the National Guard especially does all their training stuff local. Mm-hmm. So I would think that would be a foot in the door. I mean, I don't know if this has any application to them.
It does. Has tons of application to it. I mean, sky's the limit with the system of the different things that we can do and show. And I have definitely thought about it with managing the stuff with Sprint. I had to deal with a lot of military bases databases, and they took a ton of stuff. Yeah. GSA, I met with them, and they loved how simple the system was, and they talked about it with the plows. So we can show plow up, plow down, salting, things like that, but they specifically wanted to plow an inch off the ground. They said if we can show that, they will force every military base to put it on the plows because they rent it from them.
Back to the children on the school bus, how's the beacon or whatever it is
No.
on them?
So that is probably the biggest challenge of this, is how we're attaching it. So we're trying to come up with, and we're not going to develop this RFID system, but there are, and I know that Panda talked about it a little bit, but there are RFID tags that are semi-passive, semi-active, that are used in massive manufacture of material. You can scan 1,000 of them at a time. They're not passive. So passive is a system like you see where you getting in here, you tap it on the door to get in. Active automatically does it. There's no interaction. So we're looking at a combination there. And so in those, you could have a sticker on every item of clothing that they had. It's not a barcode. It's actually RFID, and it'll go through 1,000 washes. And we're looking at all kinds of different systems for that to make sure that it doesn't lose it.
Yeah, I just did a Google search on RuralFirst,
Uh-huh.
and you're on page 3.
Huh?
Have you been working on ranking in social media and exposure and any of that stuff yet, or is that down the road?
I have started, like in the last week, social media. I've not done any SEO whatsoever. In some ways, that has been slightly intentional, because there's some big guys out there in GPS. I'd like to own a lot of them before they realize that there's a big market there. Right now, it's very well protected because nobody goes after rural areas. They don't think there's opportunities there.
So dial backwards just a little bit. On the tagging RFID, it seems like you're providing a solution that really encompasses a solution to a lot of problems. Convincing parents to put a chip on all of their kids' clothing is probably something that other industries have been interested in as well. How do you expand upon that to help overcome the challenge?
The challenge of parents being
On board,
troubled with it.
on board with having a chip on all their kids' clothing.
So what's interesting is when I've spoke with this to other people, this problem is apparently so rampant. I mean, one guy said, "Oh my God, that would be amazing. My granddaughter fell asleep. She was 12 years old. She fell asleep on the bus. She woke up in the bus barn at 8 o'clock at night. There was nobody there. Nobody. It was completely dark. She was terrified. She's 12. She doesn't have a cell phone. She had no way to communicate. They were frantically looking for her, and nobody knew where they were." The ability to, we have the ability to do it where it's completely anonymous, so that just not leaving the kids on the bus. We also have the ability to do it so that we're not really tracking information on the kids except where they're getting on and off the bus. And that's good for parents too. We can even provide a second portal so that parents can log in and see that their kid got off the bus. Or they can just be sent a text alert that they got off the bus.
Or perhaps that they're at school.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That actually might be good. My
Rob?
daughter skipped that a few times.
In closing, can you tell us a little bit about what RuralFirst is looking for and what we as a community can help you out, whether it's SEO, development, or anything to get RuralFirst out in the community?
So, you get SEO for me? I don't have the funds to pay for it yet. To support the 2,000 sales reps, we're going to need a sales team. Right now it's me. So you always hear this, but investment's great. Of course, that's always great for any startup. But spread the word. Schools need to know about this. Your local governments need to know about this. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. We've got a little something new, as Devin alluded to earlier. We've got some announcements here on the board. A couple weeks ago, someone wrote out an announcement, handed it to me. I walked up here, looked at it, said something else, and didn't even mention it. So this will at least help this old guy stay on track. But The MATA Group, July 10th, here at the E-Factory at 4 p.m. If you have any questions about that, Sherry's here someplace. There, Sherry Coker's in the back if you have questions. Also, real estate investors, July 24th at the Pasta Express at 6 p.m. And if you're interested in investing in real estate, Brad's here and Sean's here as well. Where's Sean? There he is, right there. Okay. Our next presenter is Eric Steckman, and he's with Estech. Eric is from Liberty, Missouri, and just so everyone knows, in the future we're going to have people present that maybe have presented in Tulsa, maybe in Kansas City, and one of the advantages of A Million Cups is people don't just present in Springfield. Brian Mansker's here. Where's Brian at? Right here. Brian, I don't know if he's spoke in Tulsa yet or not. Okay. So someone who's trying to raise capital, trying to get more business, etc., it's a great vehicle to do that on a regional or even a national basis. So we'll be talking more about that as we get closer. And also, before I turn it to Eric, one of our supporters is here, Frank Evans with Lathrop & Gage, so law firm. There you go. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for being here. Okay, Eric, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Eric Steckman. As he said, I'm from Liberty, Missouri. So y'all look so sharp. You guys are awesome. So Kansas City could take some hints from you guys sometimes. My company is Estech LLC, and some people in here are already customers of mine and friends of mine. So I developed Estech LLC. It's founded a couple years ago. It has several different product categories, and this is the definition of a small upstart of a one guy in his house, what he can do with a concept that will improve the safety and the beneficial outcome of installing things with a value mindset. So my background, I'm from all over the Midwest, but I have an engineering degree from University of Missouri in Columbia, and I was involved in the water tower industry for about 10 years. And I've actually climbed and been on almost 1,000 water towers. And actually, a lot of the water towers around here, if you look at them, I've almost been on every one. So it's really interesting. If you've never been on a water tower, and you have a legal opportunity to get on one, yeah, it's very interesting. So in climbing all of these water towers, I ran into a habitual problem in that folks like to attach cables and antennas to water towers because it's an elevated object that's already built, and we'll talk about co-location in a second, but how they fasten cables and antennas was atrocious. So the easiest way to fasten a cable and antenna on a water tower is you climb up the ladder and you band it right around the ladder. And without a second thought, that's actually an OSHA violation, national OSHA violation, on several different categories. And in Missouri, it's a Missouri DNR design guideline violation. Several different violations going on. So I was like, there has to be a better solution. And I love materials. I'm really geeky when it comes about researching different material properties. I was like, there's a new type of magnet that's available on the market. How can that help a customer? And I had a customer in St. Louis say, we need this product. You've never built one before. We will sign a proposal. You make it for us. And we'll be your first customer sight unseen. So my framework is basically the small upstart. I have a two different marketing prong approach, and that is grassroots, local, working with the guys in the office, installing things local in Missouri. And I have a great customer base that I've gained throughout the last 10 years. But then I realized this is a product that is a disruptive technology. It eclipses the capability of prior technology, and it really needs to be taken nationally. So co-location, a water tower can provide a revenue generating and a non-revenue generating base for a customer. So if you own a water tower, you can actually make quite a bit of money from having cables and antennas, typically from cellular companies, installed on your water tower. But it has to be done correct. And I can show you photo after photo of horrible installations. Some of them include duct tape and landscaping timbers. It's all over the map. But case in point, a city can earn in between $50,000 and $500,000 a year in some cases from co-location. But most of the co-location is free. It's non-revenue generating. So if we talk about tracking buses and kids and things like that, these are the municipal antennas. They're very common. So we have telemetry and SCADA and 911 and wireless internet. Some of those don't really make any money for the cities, but they still have to be installed properly, and they cannot incur a violation. So by my calculations, there are over 100,000 water towers nationally, and they're being built every day. And I love water towers. I do, yeah. I can teach you what a fluted column hydropillar is, and I'd love it. Yeah. So they're being built all the time. So if you look at, next time you drive past a water tower, just look at, are there cables, are there antennas installed on it? And you'd be hard-pressed to find one, especially around here, that doesn't have anything installed on it. So thousands of these tanks will receive new infrastructure on the tank, and how's it going to be installed? So my company, Estech's magnetic bracketing system, which I've patent applied, so the non-provisional patent has already been applied. I'm waiting for the USPTO to come back. This system provides a high-speed, multiple advantage value system for fastening cables and telecommunications equipment. The bad and ugly. I wanted to say the good, the bad, and ugly, but there just wasn't anything good about these installations. So I'm not sure if anybody's been in a hot air balloon, but don't get close to these towers while you're in a hot air balloon. People who install antennas, a lot of times they have a monovision. They just want to install it, get done, and invoice as soon as possible. And they don't think about the encumbrances of the tank as far as a maintenance problem, as far as damaging or destroying structural capability or the coatings. So common systems to install cables so far. On the left, these are bands. They can be galvanized or stainless steel. Somebody has to go basically rappel down the tank and sweep around that leg and install these. And it creates pinch points. It creates areas where moisture can be trapped in between that and the coating system. But from the maintenance field that I came from, if you were to pressure wash and renovate a water tower that is done every 10 to 12 years, how do you get around that? And I can tell you that it's extremely difficult. These systems have to be taken off, top down, and put on a cell on wheels called a cow. I messed up when they called it a pig. It's not a pig. Cell on wheels. So there's interrupted service, but a lot of times these big cellular companies, they don't want to lose connectivity. They don't want to lose revenue, so they just ignore all the phone calls about, hey, we have a renovation coming along. And it prevents proper maintenance from occurring. It's a little dark, but this photo shows cables strapped to the side of a ladder. This is a ladder right here. This is a safety device. That is actually one of the only devices that are allowed to be attached to the ladder, is a central safety device. They will attach everything to the side. And even up top, I have to wear a helmet all the time because I can actually scrape my head on installations. Other technologies, a very common one is a cluster bracket that goes up. These can be welded, they can be banded on. On the left, you can see cables running up both sides of this ladder. This one was climbed by a couple kids. They just grabbed on the cables and got up to the ladder. So that's a security violation also. This also has an impact on the security of your stored water. Chains, those obviously create an abrasion on the coating systems. So is there a true need for a better system? What drives the demand? There are existing violations. You can install a retrofit. So if you have a bad installation, you can do it the right way. If you have a new installation, again, you can do it the right way with the Estech magnetic bracketing system. So these brackets are gauged for the application. If you have a single cable or if you have 12 huge cellular cables, all the brackets are sized to accommodate that fixture. And they can range in between about 600 pounds of magnetic vertical pull force. Some of them have over 2,000 pounds of pull force. And they've been installed right in this county too lately. Several different versions. So a very common fastening method is snap-in connections. You can take a cable, put it inside the snap-in, and clip it in. So these are all parts of the claim that I issued on the patent. There's also diameters. So I need to know, say, the diameter of the leg, or if it's flat, if it's convex. It can even be angled, and I can produce these depending on the topography that the bracket will need to affix to. So these are installed systems. This one's in Nebraska. And there are still cables on that ladder, but they only wanted me to put those two on. I want to go back and change that. This is a huge job. This is in Macon, Missouri. We had a long, really cold winter. They needed to do an installation of a big U.S. cellular cable and antenna apparatus, and they called me like, we need to go with magnets because it's so cold, we can't weld, the coatings won't cure at that temperature on the touch-ups, and sometimes these companies will use epoxy, and epoxy won't cure at all. So in 5 days, I made a complete custom bracket, delivered, and they installed it in 10-degree weather. They are patent pending. The patent should be issued very soon. They're installed so far in between Florida and Nebraska. I would like to go coast to coast with this. The patent is only for United States, so that's my primary product, and there's plenty of business in the United States. So these magnets have over a 4-year proven track record, the bracketing systems. They do not incur corrosion. They don't damage the coating systems. And they're protective of your coatings. That can cost, some coating systems are $150,000 per tank. It's tremendous, actually. And they're simple. So at a time of renovation, instead of being stuck with all of these on your tower, you can actually take these off with the proper method and offset them and coat down and keep going. And you can bypass the need for taking all the equipment off the tank. So you can save yourself time and frustration. I've also done some other products. Branson, so if you guys have seen that, I actually got that phone call, hey, we need a magnetic bracketing system for rope lighting, and I created thousands of these little rope light brackets. So there's the little fish in the big pond. That's how I feel, because I'm a little guy in a huge coast-to-coast market. How do I penetrate that? I know some of the customers here, but I don't know any folks in California. I don't have connections with some of the big cellular companies or other markets. So that's what I need some help from you guys. How do I penetrate the market and increase my sales base? I would also love your feedback and questions and answers. Thank you.
Let's just jump right in. We love inventors, and we don't get to hear enough about the patent process and how important that your intellectual property is. So take us through the development cycle and how important it was to you.
The development cycle is
Of your
very-
product and then patenting it.
It's very interesting. So as an engineer, I didn't go through patenting school, or that should be a class at Mizzou. They should include that. So it starts with an idea, and it really has to be practical. And it's a very tight sphere. To have an idea for a physical product that is new and is able to be patented is almost impossible these days, because there's so many people, there's so many ideas. But this one seemed to fit right in that wedge where it's like, nobody's ever thought of this before? Oh my gosh, I can patent this. So you have, at the time that a product is presented to the public or installed, you have 1 year to file your provisional patents. And Lathrop & Gage is here. You guys are my legal firm in Kansas City. So, yeah. So there's my value-based system there. So you have 1 year with your patent pending. And after that, you really have to buy the farm. Sorry, guys. It's the truth. You have to go with the non-provisional patents and do all of your drawings. Luckily, I do all of my own drafting, and I've had to educate myself on patenting. So we really did rapid prototyping and patenting to push this through. But you have to realize a net financial benefit after spending the time and the finances on producing the patent. And it's already paid for itself.
Okay, so I have a question. I work for city utilities, so a lot of those towers around town, water tanks, that's what we've done. Man, you've got a great idea.
Thank you. I love
Because
hearing that.
everything he said is exactly correct. Everything. So let me ask you a question. Who's your customer with this product?
The customer is very broad, so it can be any owner of a water tower. Actually, any owner of a steel structure. So there could be architectural implications. But right now, I got to focus on water towers. So a city, a public water supply district, and also like radiophone engineering out of Springfield here, they're a customer of mine. So if you install infrastructure on water towers, you're a customer. So it's really broad. There's a lot of customers.
So let me offer you a different perspective. And this, I'm not speaking for city utilities. Things that attach to the water tank are a pain in the butt. It's there for one purpose, to make sure that the water that you all get is of sufficient quality and quantity, and it's safe. The revenue stream is attractive, but there's something higher for a utility, and it's called, I got to make sure I don't get violations for water, distaste, or color, or those things. So while you suggest it's anybody that owns a structure, that may not be the most attractive customer to have. 2 suggestions. Partner up with Department of Natural Resources. Partner up with OSHA. Nobody likes to get talked to from OSHA and DNR, especially when it's a violation. But when they have a solution in their pocket and go, hey, I'm really sorry, but all that crap you've got stuck to the ladder is an OSHA violation. By the way, here's a really great suggestion. That's an idea. And the other is, it's the cellular companies. They don't have that obligation to make sure the water is clean and quality. That's your customer. Because when they encounter the utility, from firsthand experience, yeah, your money's good, but boy, that's a pain in the butt. That's a real challenge for us.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Can I real quick? Yeah, my name is David Jerome with MoPTech, Missouri Procurement Technical Assistance Center in this building. I think it kind of piggybacks a little bit off what the gentleman from City Utilities was talking about, but it looks to me like there'd be some horizontal opportunities as well. Especially military application, where you go into a location, you don't want to do a lot of drilling and fabrication or whatever, you just want to do some attaching to current facilities or whatever. It looks to me like that would be a good thing to run conduit or cabling or whatever on a temporary basis.
I definitely agree. With the military, I work with the Special Forces community. My product category is kind of broad. I'm actually developing some systems for the Special Forces community currently, but there are times when they need to deploy a communication system rapidly, and if they had brackets that they could attach to a steel structure, they could have installation done in a matter of minutes, as opposed to welding or any other situation like that. Yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you.
Matthew with Ulink. I'm a wireless ISP, so I know you've certainly been working with us, I would imagine, in some scale. What is, given that we are not cellular companies, given that we are more, we're more modular, we're typically, like you, single owners that just go out and trying to acquire vertical assets to put our antennas and our equipment onto. These devices look like they're designed primarily for the cellular company, from what I'm seeing so far. And I would suspect that you do have maybe smaller units for the applications that we have for primarily the Cat5 or the Cat6 cabling that we use to power and deliver data to our devices. So I'd be curious if you have something that you've worked with, or have you made something like that currently, and what are your plans for the antenna mass mounting brackets? Our antennas are typically smaller, less weight, don't require a whole lot of footprint space, and something like this would be helpful on that front too. And finally, I would invite you, if you're interested at all, to come to Wispapalooza in Vegas, I think in October, where you would be introduced to the entire market. Something like this is right up our alley. So much quicker to pop into place, to maintain, to modify and move and add to. It would make our lives quite a bit easier if there was a way of, from a financial standpoint, making it work.
Absolutely. So as far as scale, a Cat5 cable, some of those brackets are actually in the room right now. So after the presentation, you guys can hands-on see some of these brackets. So they're all scaled for use. And obviously, the cost is much lower on the smaller units. As far as antennas, there are solutions that I'm working on, though I can't speak on those right now, but they are in the process. So trust me, there are amazing solutions coming up in categories like that. And what was your other question? Okay. Not yet, but definitely. I'll get with you later, and maybe we can exchange that information. That'd be cool. Okay, question?
All right. Obviously, we all need water to live. We're all made of water, and one of the biggest studies that have been done is EMI through water and how it changes the molecular structure. What regulates people putting huge magnets and interferences on the towers to affect our water supply? And has there been any studies done to show the proven effect of what electromagnetic interference can do to our drinking water?
That's a really good question. There could be a dissertation written on that question to answer. So water is a polar molecule. The magnets that I use are right in the realm of being strong enough to hold the applications they're designed for, but weak enough that they're releasable. And if you look at the Gaussian bands, or the magnetic field bands, when they're attached, all the magnetic field bands in the steel and in the fixture that holds the magnet. So there is almost no magnetic field that actually goes into the water supply. Magnets are used to treat water. So there hasn't been any studies that I've ever seen to show that it would affect the structure of the water or the capability of it being treated. So what it could do is possibly, traditionally magnets have attracted like iron oxides and things to filter those out of water. The biggest thing is, what would the electromagnetic frequencies be doing? And those still have not shown to penetrate through that steel or affect the water in any way. And in between the magnets and the electromagnetic fields that the cables have, there's also no interference in between that. And I can show you how I capture the magnetic fields. It's almost like aiming a gun. So any magnetic field that's out here that is visible is wasted energy. We want all that to be pushed into the tank so we can get the best package in a small unit. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. There's so many studies done with water, microwave water, heating the plant with microwave water,
Mm-hmm.
rainwater.
Yeah.
It's just really tough looking at that whole plant.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we bring these concerns that all these antennas and all these things on the water tower, they're very dependent on water. Water tower is the actual water system.
Yeah. Well, it's the EMF propagation into the water. That's not my field of expertise or business, but there's not enough in that water to affect it on a majority chemical level from my studying. So, yes.
Okay, have you worked with the MRWA
I know all the MRWA guys. They're
Okay,
great
you know
guys.
the field riders, the circuit riders, and all
Yes.
those guys?
Yes.
Do you go to their convention? Do you have a presentation or a booth at their convention?
You're reading my mind.
Okay.
So the annual MRWA, and MRWA stands for Missouri Rural Water Association. It's a very grassroots, great organization. I was at their annual meeting a couple months ago. I was actually a presenter. I got to present to a crowd about your size. They were a very rough crowd. I'm just playing. They're a good crowd. Also, Missouri DNR is aware, at least several people in DNR are aware of my product, and they love it. They actually wrote me a letter of approval saying this is a product that we not only authorize, but we basically encourage this product to be installed. And that was great. So the Macon, Missouri, the really cold water tower, the main office that I was talking with at the Missouri DNR, that's their water tower. It's right by their office. So it's great to have all of that in one city. Other questions?
Okay. To our audience, it's clear today, certainly with you guys, that you can help. And there's substance that our audience can provide, and we really, really appreciate that. So as we wrap up, what can we as a community do for you?
If you guys have suggestions on how to grow from a little company, it's actually so small I don't want everybody to know how small it is. How to grow with quality. So I don't want to grow so fast that you don't have the strength and those core bricks to build that company. But also, how do I approach the national market? How do I get name brand recognition? This product has enough momentum that once somebody has just a 1 or 2 sentence idea of what this product is, it gets its own momentum, and they're like, oh my gosh, some of these guys in the industry love new technology because that's what they do, and they love to carry that new technology to the finished application of their product. So how do I do that? That's my main question.
Well, hopefully we'll have those answers for you. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
So in closing, if you guys, to me, the presenters today are just such prime examples of passion and enthusiasm. And I think more importantly, why 1 Million Cups is here is to take these business owners and these single operators and help foster them through that development cycle. Entrepreneurship is the fastest way to accomplish innovation, and innovation is the only way to really solve problems. And I think it's really neat to see these companies, how their products and services got started, and where we can help them accomplish their goals. So we invite you all to come back next week. We'll be here, same place, same time. Thanks for coming out.